Welcome to the Verde and Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verde. And boy, oh boy, what did we see tonight? I'll tell you, this is, it's going to end Brian Kelly's double-digit win streak, that's for sure. LSU's not going to hit that 10-win margin that he's hit his past 6 seasons, I believe, dating back to Notre Dame. I got a couple of takeaways for this, right? First thing I want to say, Billy Napier talked about DJ Lagaway, his injury, and just how he was able to recover and get ready for a game like this against LSU. Number 22 coming into your house, really big moment, right? And he's only 85%. So shout out to DJ Lagaway being a younger quarterback, and I think really announcing, that he's here in the SEC to stay. He handled LSU pretty well. Yeah, he had a good defensive performance. But all in all, it just wasn't enough. And now the SEC Armageddon ends for LSU. The ties, the standings, the rabbit hole stats we've been going down, Reddit threads, you name it, it's all over. Let me give you my quick reactions. We'll go quarter by quarter. Let's start things off. First quarter, Braden Swinson, Sage Ryan not on the field. They had some team standards that were not met, apparently, according to Coach Kelly. What does that mean for the Tigers, though? Obviously, Braden Swinson, your best edge. Sage Ryan has your call to player mic in his headset. Safety position group kind of needed the help, the extra push, the extra communication over the past weeks, just with the way things have been looking, right? You've been in a situation where I'm not going to say your defense has been getting torched, but your defense hasn't been answering the bell because at about the halfway mark of the second quarter, LSU was outscored 80-19 in the last 7 quarters, meaning Alabama put enough of a hurting on you to where now you're in a situation where your defense looks completely different than it did in the first half of the season. Your offense isn't getting enough of a push. Garrett Nussmeier looks hurt. You got O-linemen dropping like flies. Your guards, obviously, your running backs are playing banged up. At times, the wide receiver room looked very confusing. Kyron Lacey didn't have many targets. I believe he had 2 targets through the first half, dropped 1, caught another for a few yards. And the thing about Braden Swinson not being on the field, I'm not going to put this on it, and I'm not going to say that him playing would have mitigated this, but the drop pick by Devon Keys, that's who's on the field for number 4, for ISO Joe. That's who on the field in his position. And I feel like, if given the situation, if given the opportunity, if given the chance, maybe Braden comes down with it, and that inevitably leads to Florida's first touchdown. That leads to DJ Lagaway hitting that through the air, coming out 7-0. And yes, Winston comes back in the second half and makes a big tackle. But all in all, I think losing Miles Frazier, not having Garrett Dellinger, having that inconsistency at the offensive line. Having Garrett Nussmeier getting chased around the field over and over. There's times where he's turning around and running back. He's getting hit. He's shaking up. Looked like he got hurt 2 different times throughout the game. There's a lot of things that you got to go back to the drawing board and revisit if you're Brian Kelly. Hell, if you're Joe Sloan, Blake Baker, doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be in for a treat this week. Had a deep shot to Chris Hilton. A couple of notes I made throughout the game. I'm just wondering, when was the gunslinging going to start? Obviously, run game was looking good, especially in that third quarter. The run game was busting. Everybody was breaking through. I think through the first quarter, Caden Durham was averaging 7.3 yards per carry. But there was just a lot of moments where I'm not going to say Nuss was just being safe, but I don't know, man. It doesn't look like what you had initially expected preseason going into this year. Coach Kelly was talking in the press conference just about the addition of the headsets, the addition of the extra communication up to 15 seconds before the snap, and just how it might be too much. It might be confusing him. It might be making him have just a lot going on in his head, too much to think about, and it could lead to some of these errors and some of these situations. Look, there's times where it's necessary. He had a throw where Kyron Lacey was coming across the field. He would have had to try to throw it cross-body, and he took the safe route. He took the safe option. Then there's other times where it feels like he can make something shake and potentially air it out and barely misses a Chris Hilton or a little bit of an underthrow on an Aaron Anderson. And look, it could be because he's shaking up. It could be because the throwing hand's hurt. We really don't know. We've been wondering how healthy Garrett Nussmeier has been dating back to the Arkansas game. The A&M game, he was rocked up a little bit. As the sacks pile up and as the offensive line keeps letting people through, I think that's going to be a question we're going to have to keep asking. Another key point we'll have to revisit here in the third quarter, the C.J. Daniels touchdown called back by the pass interference. And then to end the third quarter, LSU had a miserable trend. Through that time frame, their final 6 plays went for 6 yards. What happened at the beginning of the fourth quarter? Garrett Nussmeier for what I believe is the third time in 2 weeks, had the fumble, didn't get to recover it as smoothly as we expected. Emory Jones grabs it, turns into a little bit of a hybrid. You're like, okay, Emory Jones got the wheels, and then he got absolutely murked. Ball goes flying, and now you're in a situation where your offense is stagnant, the pressure's building, and you've got to hurry up and make something out of nothing. I think this offense was pushed in a really rough situation. They even had a point. They ran doubles with two tight ends, had a 7-man front blocking for old Nussmeier, still gets sacked. Still, the pressure got through. So hats off to Billy Napier, the Florida coaching staff, for being able to scheme 100% Nussmeier in a situation where he was trapped in a box, not able to get comfortable, not able to throw the ball, not able to look like a Garrett Nussmeier we thought he could look like. I mean, I would have never imagined that Florida would be in a situation where they're holding LSU to 13 points, where they're, pushing back, getting to really be, I'm not going to say one of the more tough games we've had all season, but Ole Miss didn't really do that to you. Texas A&M for the first half didn't do that to you. Alabama did it to you, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say you expected it, but you're not as surprised. Florida doing this to you, it's a head scratcher. Now you're in a situation where you got a lot of decisions to make. You got to revisit a lot of position groups. Hell, this is what I'm saying. Let's throw combinations out there. Let's throw young cats out there, the freshmen out there. Let's just develop and understand what our weaknesses are for next season. You heard it on the broadcast. You're not getting to double-digit wins. You're not getting to a playoff. You're not getting to an SEC title. You're not getting to a bowl game that's even worth two craps, right? So in this situation, 100% reevaluate the season. Reevaluate what you thought you had going for you in year 3, because I think you're way off of schedule, at least for what you thought preseason. Here's my overall thoughts. LSU did run the ball well. They did have, more production on the ground than they have had in recent weeks. So, I'm a little impressed with that. Mason Taylor, absolute baller. Look, he had 10-plus targets. Obviously, he's banged up. Hopefully, he's going to be healthy, or he's in our thoughts. But he needs 10-plus receptions, 10-plus targets at least every single game. Please look to him first. If he's not the primary, look to him second. You have to incorporate 86 in your offense at really, I'm not going to say every drive, every passing moment, but you've got to start finding a way to scheme him into your lineup. I mean, he's every third down, every fourth down, every moment where you need something and you need a short pass, you need a surefire target, he's the guy you have to go to. They're not going to Kyron Lacy. He had 2 targets in the first half. I believe he probably only had another 2 in the second half. They're not going to go to a Chris Hilton, who really hasn't been able to develop that chemistry with Garrett Nussmeier, who we thought was going to be that vertical threat all season long. It hasn't happened. It hasn't panned out. Simply put, just readjust. I mean, now it's a little bit too late. Mason Taylor's off to the races. He's going to be in the NFL. It's just a shame. I feel like that was one of those biggest weapons that you really, I'm not going to say you underutilized, because he did have a lot of production. I believe he's in a 27-game reception streak, 3+ catches every game this season, counting this one. But it's just tough to see, because he's Mr. Reliable. He's your, Jeray Jenkins, back to Coach O's final few years. He's that guy where if you throw it up, it's one on bum, simply put. Let's talk about the O-line, the health. You're missing Garrett Dellinger. Miles Frazier goes down. He comes back in the fourth quarter. That's something you're going to have to monitor. You don't want 2 guards out, especially with the way that, the pressure was getting through tonight. I'm not going to say that it's going to affect the run production and the inside run. At first, I was worried about it, but it looked like they handled it pretty well tonight. However, what they did not handle well was keeping their quarterback clean. That's going to be something that you're going to have to reevaluate. And lastly put, Napier saved his ass. His ass was burning. The seat was hot. You had ADs, everybody in the country meeting about what is Florida going to do? Who are they going to hire? Is it Lane Kiffin? Is it this? Is it that? It's Billy Napier. They might have just been in a situation where they probably didn't have enough talent. But, hey, guess what? You win games like this when number 22 comes into the swamp and you don't back down. Recruits are going to want to come. Transfers are going to want to come. Billy Napier, you did your stuff. I think you sealed your job. I don't even think you're going to be worrying next season. You got momentum. These are the wins you need. And there's really nothing you could say about Florida at this point besides they're on the upward trajectory. Now, LSU, you better hope that you can secure what seems to be one of the safest, one of the most probable players to commit in the 2025 class in Bryce Underwood. What you got to do is kind of build and just create a recruiting class in this offseason, at least with the transfer portal, to kind of push over a little bit of hype if you're Brian Kelly, because as of right now, fans don't have much to look forward to. Fans are kind of scratching their heads wondering, is Brian Kelly going to be the guy? Is LSU going to be able to push and get into that college football playoff? Because right now, you are taking a huge step back. Even if you took a inch or 2 inch step forward as a number 13 finish last season, you would be creeping into that 12-man format. You would be creeping into, potential SEC championship with the way that the ties were going. Right now, with 3 losses, you were hanging in there. I think it's a big reevaluation period, though. I don't think you got to make many coaching staff moves. I think you keep the consistency. You try to keep the continuity. What I think you do, though, is you recruit the wideouts. You recruit the younger skill positions, and you go out and get dogs and get ballers and just let everybody know that LSU is on the way up. Bryce Underwood can bring that positivity that LSU needs direly right now because their season just fell flat on its face. Thanks for watching the Verdant Verdict. Y'all hit the thumbs up on the stream. We'll be live Monday at 1 p.m. Follow us on social media at Verdant Verdict. And shout out to Happy Dad. You know the drill. Oh, wait, it's on this side. A little fake out. Albertsons, Rouse's, Walmart, best tasting hard seltzer on the market. Every LSU fan in the state needs about 30 cases of these to wash away what Florida just did to us. Shout out Tom Petty. Shout out Billy Napier. Shout out Brian Kelly. I'll be nice. Y'all have a good one.